it was just so interesting. I do encounter that sometimes with people that, a lot of religious people that just are afraid of the duality, that life is the anger and it's the kindness. It is the joy, it's the depression, but it's also, the happiness and the just the sheer joy of living. So, to deny one in favor of the other, it just felt so, I was so sensitive to that, to see him wanting just the one side. And I hadn't seen that in a long time, that, we're always trying to find that one end of the stick. And to do that, you ignore the other end. And it doesn't function that way. And it felt so unnatural, and he felt so phony to me. And I've never been so keen to that in somebody before. And so it was really interesting to see how I could see him. And so we talked a little bit about that, about embracing all of it and not just seeking out the one side. But we do that spiritually too. We're looking for the bliss and the eternal happiness. And the basic end of the conversation is that you're the peace, you're that awareness, you're the space for all of it to happen. You're not looking for the human peace or the human type of love. You're looking for that which is beyond the human experiences and all the comings and goings. So it was really, it was kind of refreshing to kind of tone it down a little bit to the daily living instead of always the non-duality talking, but then it ended up being non-duality talking anyway. Because I really haven't spoken with somebody that was so one-sided on life. So it was interesting. Life's never dull, I'll tell you. Never dull. Every time I think I'm going to have a boring day, it's like, wow. Now, and I had somebody had written something about Nisargadatta and his looking at the I am. And, in the human realm, the I am is this. You can say that you exist. But I always love what my first talk with Bob said, but you're before the I am. I was like, oh, wow. It's just blew me away. I love that. I'll never forget that first talk, because I kept thinking, okay, focus on the I am. And that's a good basic primal thing to focus on, when you're seeking and you're questioning. And then, of course, I'm talking to Bob about it. And then he goes, well, you're before the I am. What was the point? But I understand now. If you can get it down to just that little bit, the very basic primordial fact that I exist, that I am. And that just gets rid of so much of the comings and goings of the phenomenal world, just that basic breathing, this everything's naturally happening. I'm here, I exist. And then something comes in and says, you're even before that. So thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people I know that are religious, and I come from an extremely religious family. I have a priest, a born-again Christian, a Baptist, real hardcore. And they have very black and white thinking. And, one minute they're like, God loves everybody, but then you're going to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty extreme. But the Christians did come up with the terms omniscience, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So, and that means all there is God, basically, all knowing, all power, and everywhere. But they don't really, it's really hard to take those concepts and apply it. That means everything.
Yep.
But, something in your mind says, no, God, God wouldn't be doing this. God's kind, God's forgiving, but yet the next moment, he's the only one that can judge you and send you, to hell or punish you. And it's like, okay. It's it's really fascinating to listen to their reasoning. And, I can't really condemn them because their devotion is so beautiful. I love their devotion to their religion, my family's devotion. It's really inspiring. And then to watch them struggle with these concepts and try and make sense of them and the different interpretations you'll get from the quotes from the Bible. But it all boils down, and so often when I run into extremely religious people, they'll say, God did it, and I gave it to God, and God will take care of it. And I thought, isn't that the truth? If you're going to take a concept or take this and call it God, isn't that the same thing that the non-dualists are saying? It's all God. It'll happen when it happens. You're breathing on your own. The thoughts are arising, and they say the same thing. God's doing it all. He will take me there. He helped me. He got rid of my addiction. He will help my child. I pray and give it to God. I give it to God. And I just thought, isn't that the same thing we're saying? And yet we're so quick to, write them off and say
anything other than God. I just remember that strongly as a small child.
Well, some of my teachers, the awakened beings, let's just say, have children. And these children are living with this teaching that we're hearing today, this non-dual message, and they're not interested. So it's really not a matter of convincing anybody or believing or unbelieving. It's simply what's happening. And so, instead of trying to change my family, who I said are pretty hardcore, into believing and seeing what I see, that recognition will come on its own. But in the meantime, I have a great value and respect for what they're doing, because it sure beats, a lot of other things they could be doing. And like I said, I really admire their devotion and love to this God, this image they have. And I think a lot of us can say that we grew up religious, but not everybody's going to say this isn't satisfying me. They're not going to have that recognition, not going to have that desire to move a different direction or look a little deeper. It's just the way that it shows up for each of us uniquely. So in this, I was kind of pissed off. It's like, I think it would have been easier to be part of the norm, let's say the majority of the population or my family, and just stay with those beliefs, because thinking, gosh, I could have had a family. I wouldn't have been weirdo. I wouldn't have been the black sheep. I could have fit in, and we could be all doing these things together and going to church, and but no, I had to be the seeker and suffer, and nothing was good enough, and not this, not that, and seek, and read and pray and meditate. And I'm like, oh, all the seeking and suffering. And, I was kind of have to admit, I was a little envious that they didn't have to work as hard as me. But, it wasn't my choice.
Well, that's
it wasn't my choice to be religious or a seeker.
It's all in the past. That's all in the past for you now anyway, isn't it?
Yes, but I was just trying to show the difference between the religious and, the seeker. And where there was a shift there. And of course, I'm still the black sheep, but I decided to call myself the white sheep of the family instead of the black sheep. So, because, I'm just glowing now. But it's really wonderful to sit no matter where I am, and to let things be as they are and not think or feel they should be any different. And that I can see, how this all plays out, and everybody's can't be any different than they are. And to see that it's all that oneness, that energy expressing as everything. So nobody has to be any different. And that's such a freedom. That is such a freedom for me, because, to have that in your face and be ostracized because you won't claim Jesus as your savior, and you don't go to church from your own family. That was a struggle, but now it doesn't bother me when they criticize me or say anything. In fact, I see them kind of turning and embracing me a little bit now. And in fact, I even go to church now and then just to show my support. And when I sit in church and I hear a sermon, like the sower and the seed, oh my gosh, it hits me so hard. It's so profound. These quotes that I used to be like, "Puh." Now I'm just like, holy cow, that is so profound. When you look at it from a non-dual stance, I'm like, wow, the sower and the seed. We don't know where our seed is going to be planted, if we're going to be in the dirt, or we're going to be in we're going to be abused, sexually abused as a child, or sold for sex trafficking, or if we're going to be a lawyer or president. We have no idea where our seed's going to land, and how our lives are going to unfold for us, if we're going to stay religious or become a seeker or have a recognition and awakening. And, you hear these things that my brothers and sisters say, and I'm literally in awe of their beliefs. Now, of course, we're going to interpret it differently, and that's fine, because I've even been in church and we're all hearing the same sermon and everybody heard it differently. So it's just to have that freedom and acceptance and beauty that everything can happen just the way it is, and not to really want it any differently is, and even this fella who couldn't accept my complaining about my son or my sharing my story about how abusive my son was towards me the other day. He couldn't accept that. And to see that he couldn't accept that, and that he just wanted to see the good. It was, it's just the way it played out for him. And it was nice to be able to actually see the full picture instead of he should be doing that and he should be this and getting angry at him and stuff. And I actually had compassion instead, that this person was doing the best he could with what he knew, and that worked for him and for everybody. So, but to have this newfound respect for religion. In fact, I've even found myself pulling out the Bible, and I've been posting quotes on my Facebook page. They're so beautiful, just so beautiful.
Well, it was Tukarama, I think it was, a great Indian saint. He was very devotional, and he said, by worshipping the form, by being devoted to the form, I attained the forms. Mm-hmm. So it took him home. And every path, as Douglas Harding used to say, every path will take you home. If you're sincere, if you're sincere and earnest about it, you're really seeking. Walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
And the good news is, regardless what you believe you are, you're still already that.
Exactly. And I really love the 12-step program too. I was in Al-Anon because I've been surrounded by addicts. I was born into it. I married it. I gave birth to it. I mean, just surrounded by like hardcore addicts my entire life. So my mom said something about going to Al-Anon. I thought, oh, okay. That was the most beautiful program ever. For beginner steps in the spiritual world. I had such an awakening. It was, the first step admitted we were powerless. Like, how potent is that? That's such an amazing, and admitted we were powerless and that our lives would become unmanageable. And then the next 11 steps are trying to prove that to you. Like, here, let me show you how powerless you are. But, if you just stuck with the first step, you'd be like, you're good to go. Yeah. But what a beautiful program. Like you said, Bob, there's just anything for good or bad, is an opportunity. It's not just the good stuff, and everything can show you that. And many people have had recognitions or realizations from extreme suffering and pain, but it's joy as well.
Yeah. Bob used to say, it takes you where it takes you. And in every single pattern, you have a uniquely different journey. Yeah.
That's why there's so many different messages. There'll never be, no teacher's going to have the exact same message, but it's all, of course, pointing to the same thing. People are like, how did you awaken? And I go, that doesn't really matter, because you can sit and do everything Bob did, and it doesn't mean that it'll happen for you, because that's what we do a lot of times when we follow teachers is they teach how it happened for them, basically. Yeah. Or at least the path that they were on, that this recognition had suddenly appeared. But it's all grace. There's really, and believe me, Bob, I know you've said it, I've tried reading books, retreats, sat songs, meditation for years and years and years, and nothing really happened. But it could. It's not to say that it couldn't either. I kept trying to stop trying to understand this, and there's just this peace that came, this quietude that came, and and that was it. To me, it was like, well, isn't this what you wanted? This peace of mind, and there it was, right there. And I think Bob used to say that Nisargadatta would pull the rug out from under him all the time. Anytime Bob threw a concept or a question, Nisargadatta would just throw it out the window. Bob, I remember you saying you get so frustrated, and you kept going back. But that's the beauty of it. The mind kind of gives up. Or there's a giving up of the mind. As I said, awareness gives you up.